Is independent senator from Vermont, of Bernie Sanders. He's a member of the Progressive Caucus and about as progressive as it gets. So let me start really simple. What did you think of the speech?
I thought the president said a lot of the right things. I think the devil is going to be in the details. And also the question is whether the president is going to fight for what he believes, or is this just rhetoric? Cenk, what we saw in terms of the tax deal, you remember back in December, the president really basically caved in and gave the Republicans almost everything they wanted. In terms of the continuing resolution, the 2011 budget, which I'm going to vote against tomorrow, there were massive cuts in programs for health care, for education, for infrastructure, keeping people warm. I think a very bad agreement. Now, what the president is saying is that he is drawing a line in the sand. And I hope very much that the president is going to say to the Republicans that if you refuse to raise the debt limit, if you are about to destroy or bring chaos to the international financial community, leading perhaps to a major depression. If you guys are prepared to do it, take responsibility. But we're not going to cave in again. We're not going to be blackmailed again. You are not going to dismember the government and cut back on programs that tens and tens of millions of Americans absolutely depend upon, while, as the president said, you give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the richest people in this country who in many ways have never had it so good. So the president's rhetoric was strong, weak on the details, but the $64 question is the president going to really fight? Is he going to rally the American people and say, no, we're not going to bring hardship to the people without money while we give tax breaks to the very rich? That's the issue that remains to be seen.
Well, Senator Sanders, it is apparent to me that you are concerned, right? And towards the end of the speech, the president did say, I might not get what I want. So that, of course, opens the door for negotiations. Now, obviously, they have to have negotiations. I guess my question to you is, are you happy with where the negotiations appear to begin? Because the president kept referring to that deficit commission that he put together. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I think you make a very good point, Cenk, and I am not. What often happens is we start off somewhere in the middle or to the right of center, then the Republicans go into the extreme right, and we end up with a settlement that is very far to the right. I think the president should have been very clear in terms of Social Security, for example, in saying, excuse me, Social Security has not contributed one nickel to the deficit. It can pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for 26 years, has a $2.6 trillion surplus. It is not on the table. We're not going to discuss it now. That's for another day. In terms of Medicare, I think that clearly there are financial problems. There are ways that by getting rid of bureaucracy within the Medicare system, we can save substantial sums of money without doing the kinds of damage that the Republicans want to do. So again, Cenk, the devil will be in the detail, but I am not a great fan of that Simpson-Bowles deficit reduction commission. I think that's a bad place to start from.
Right. You know, one of my concerns with that commission is, among other things, they said Social Security retirement age would be raised to 69. If that's the model we're using, you're not happy with that solution at all,
and
right?
They were going to also, in addition to that, cut benefits for many, many workers. It is not a good place to start from. And also, most importantly, we have to separate the whole issue of how we deal with the deficit, which is very important, from Social Security, and how we make sure that remains strong for 75 years. These are separate issues because Social Security is paid for by the payroll tax, has a huge surplus right now, hasn't contributed one nickel to the deficit, and it is only Republican ideology and propaganda which is trying to bring these two issues together.
All right, Senator Sanders, honestly, I didn't know where you were going to come out on this, and I sense concern from you. That's what I sense. Okay, we'll see how it plays out, obviously. Thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
All right. Now, a key part of the president's message today was for Americans to share the burden